What's up? This is EJK. This video today is going to cover Innovation's very fast Stim build on Frozen Temple that I used against Dark in GSL Code A. This is a very fast Stim build. I want to reiterate that. He has his 2 Medivacs out and Stim completed at essentially the 5-minute mark. I guess I don't really know how to give a comparison of that, but essentially that's very fast. And this is a best of 5 series against Dark, so it is good to mix in these kinds of builds. But more importantly, I want to cover this game because I think this is a very solid build, and even if the Zerg is cheesing you, if you proactively look for the cheese, um, I think you'll be just fine, or you'll do all right against holding the cheese with the fast Stim build, because you'll have Stim done by the time the Zerg comes across the map on 3 bases. But more importantly, I paused the game here because I just want to point out that Dark has gone for 17 extractor, 17 spawning pool before his hatchery, and that I believe is in response to a potential proxy 3-Rex Reaper that Innovation can pull out against Dark. That can definitely catch a Zerg player off guard, and this is definitely a defensive opener by Dark because of how late he gets his pool and the fact that he only makes 2 Zerglings. So he wasn't intending to try to cancel Innovation's command center or anything like that. He was just using it as a to punish Innovation if he chose to do a cheesy Reaper build on this map. Frozen Temple, not too bad of a map to do a Reaper rush on. You have that very nice little, or very nice, quite big entrance. Oh my gosh. I wish I could figure out how that cannot happen. Every time there's a pen tool, that thing pops up. So Innovation goes for a Reaper expand, and as soon as he sees the hatchery that's not completed, he knows that Dark's gone for pool first, and he knows that he has to back up as well because there are going to be lings on the map, and if Innovation chooses to stay, those 2 lings at the corner of the map, right over here, would be able to run in and cancel his, or delay his command center and kill the SCV building it, most likely. Just getting a little scouting information there, all good for Innovation. Now, since Dark opened up for a pool first build, his drone saturation is going to be a bit off. Right now, I just want to point out that Dark does not have a 3rd base, and he's making 5 more drones as well. And he also kind of waited to get Overlord speed. He's at 180 gas right now, and he doesn't get it until basically about now. That was a really good timing on my part, I gotta say. So I just want to point out that right now Dark has 1 drone on gas. He has, so that leaves about 30 drones left for the minerals. That's about 15 drones per base. And he's making 5 more drones because he's going to be adding his gas, he's going to be adding a roach warren, he's going to be adding a hatchery. That's already several drones right there that he's going to have to replenish. So that's why he's adding the drones first, and he's choosing to go up to 16 drones on, or essentially full saturation on each base before taking his 3rd base, which I think is a very fine move indeed. Innovation's Reaper scouts those 3 drones, these 3 drones right here, very important. That basically lets Innovation know that Dark is not going to be doing a 2-base build, 2-base all-in build. There's no reason. You'd be making units at this time, not drones. So Innovation knows that it's going to be macro. He knows that he can play fairly greedy. Dark in a second is going to be scouting Innovation's build, and by seeing the factory with no add-ons, the factory not making Hellions or Siege Tanks, that should tip off Dark that Innovation is going for some sort of, I guess, wonky, not really as standard build. because having that factory bear means that you're investing all your money into something else. It could be like reactor liberators, or it could be a fast stim. There's not really any other options if you're not using your factory and you see the factory's bare at this time in the game. So Innovation's 2 Medivacs are finished. He's essentially rushed them out, and it's 4:45, and his Medivacs are already going across the map. Stim is about to finish, so Innovation has timed this out very well, and he's also able to take advantage of the relatively little map presence that Dark has. Dark has essentially one Overlord here. So he has one Overlord here, he has 2 Overlords there, and then he has like 3 Overlords right there. So Dark's Overlord spread is not as ideal as he'd like it to be to defend against these kinds of drops. So Innovation is able to go relatively unnoticed to Dark's third base, as we see the observer points out. And now he's stims in, he's able to snipe a queen, always good, hinders the Zerg production by sniping a queen. And he has some very sharp Medivac micro, going straight into the main base, and this is a spot that Innovation is going to continuously drop on, that spot right there. He's going to continuously utilize that area for drops because it is the farthest path away from the Zerg, or that the Zerg player's ground army has to walk, so it's essentially the hardest spot on the map for the Zerg player to defend at this stage in the game. Innovation going for a 2-pronged attack now, but very smartly backs up as soon as he sees the spore. He doesn't want to overcommit his units, and it's important that he keeps his units alive, as he's been doing now, so that he can control the map against his opponent. Right now, he does have full control over the map. He knows exactly what his opponent is doing, and Dark is essentially showing Innovation exactly what he's doing in terms of what he's building army composition, because he's using all of his units to defend. Innovation's building 2 Liberators right now. We see them on the production tab, and we see also this drop. My god, that is really annoying. But this drop right here is kind of circling across the map, and what the first 2 Medivacs are doing is they're clear. Oh my gosh, I can't click. So what the first 2 Medivacs are essentially doing is they're over here. It dropped over. Okay, that's. Okay, that doesn't help. That doesn't help either. Okay, I'm sorry guys, we're just stuck with this. Maybe that's alright. That's actually not too bad. So essentially what Innovation's doing is his Medivacs are going. So his first 2 Medivacs are over here. They start at the third base, they go to the main base, then they go here. They end up over here. And what he does is he clears out this section of the map so that Dark has no vision of just essentially all of this area. So all of this area, Dark has no idea where Innovation's army is. And Innovation had a drop over here. It went over here, it got denied, and he rotated over his drop. And there's essentially no way for Dark to know that Innovation has solidified his army at this point in the game, because he has no vision. Innovation did a good job clearing it out, and now he made the 2 Liberators. The 2 Liberators are out on the map, and they're on their way to join up the 4 Medivacs. And Innovation's going to be pushing this drop area in a little bit. But his build just really lines up very well, because he clears out vision, so Dark doesn't know where he's going to drop. He has a good idea of where Innovation is going to drop, though, because this is the best spot on the map to drop for a Terran because of how far away the walking distance is for the Zerg army. Dark has already moved his Spore Crawler because he's recognized that it's not Liberators he needs to defend against right away, it's the Medivacs. And Medivac drops. So Dark smartly positions his Spore Crawler right on the edge of creep, and I think this is a very intelligent move, and it essentially does a lot more. The Spore Crawler's taking a bunch of shots off at the Medivac, gets one Medivac, almost gets a second one, and it forces Innovation to target it down instead of targeting drones, the Queen, or more Roaches and Ravagers. Innovation's very smartly splitting his army up. He wants to deny some mining time and try to just be as much of a nuisance as possible. Not getting too much damage done here, trying to trade Roaches for Marines, a very complex micro by Innovation, really kind of showing off. He has some very good micro overall, I would say, against Roaches and Ravagers, being able to time the Stim Marines DPS in relation to the Roaches and Ravagers' slower attacked base moves. This DPS of the Marines is much faster, so you can essentially do some damage and then pick up your units or retreat by the time that the Roaches and Ravagers fire their shots, because they're more projectile based. Dark is now taking his 4th base, and he's going for a very fast hive. So Dark is playing very defensively. He's trying to establish his 4th base on the map. He's establishing his creep spread a little bit more, but Innovation's Harass has already done a good job of delaying the 4th base of Dark. He started his 4th base a little after 8 minutes. That's very late for a Zerg player. And essentially just pressuring Dark and keeping him on his side of the map, so that if Dark was to do a counterattack of any sorts, Innovation, or like a timing push, Innovation would be able to counterattack. And Dark really struggling to secure his 4th base. If we look on the minimap, he doesn't have any vision over this part of the map, and that's what's allowing Innovation to be able to walk straight up to the 4th base and deny it. And that's what also allows Innovation to safely set his army as close to the 4th base as possible, and whenever Dark goes slightly out of position, Innovation can punish Dark by denying his 4th base, like we saw just now. Dark's Ultralisk Cavern is on the way, but on 3 bases, 6 gases, there is not really... Dark really cannot afford Ultralisk production at this point. And Innovation's in a very good spot, I must say. He's been doing a good job denying creep. Dark, about a minute ago, I would say, Dark had creep tumors over here and over here. We see the creep spread on the map still hasn't fully receded yet. But Innovation is essentially... So, Innovation wiped out map vision in this area so that he can push to Dark's 4th base. And then he also took out this area, the active creep tumors, and this area, the active creep tumors. So, for the Zerg player, although Innovation hasn't done too much direct damage, he's increased his options of what he can do with his army by essentially a lot, to the point where Dark can no longer play... Dark is essentially checkmated. There's only a certain amount of moves left that Innovation can do before Dark is checkmated and has to leave the game, basically. So, Innovation's army is moving out now. I like how he sends the Stimmer... Oh, the minimap's covering them. But he sends the Stim Marines to the 4th base location in trying to kill the Overlord. If there was an Overlord spreading creep, he sees the Lings instead and is able to clear them out and safely place his 4th base. Cool. And he's also positioned his army right outside the 4th base of Dark. And it's lining up with the 2-2 upgrades about to finish on the production tab. And Innovation's tank spread is also very interesting as well. He has 2 tanks over here and then 1 tank over here. I believe he has 1 more tank in the background over there. Essentially, what this does is... Oops. Now my circles are off. Alright, so what this does is, if Dark wants to engage in this army, this tank is going to be a priority. Now, if this tank is a priority, these 2 tanks are going to be essentially safe and getting free tank volleys off. So Innovation is essentially saying that, hey, you can attack one of my tanks, but that'll allow me to get my other tanks to be shooting at your army. So very good positional tank play by Innovation. Just wanted to point that out. And Dark really, he needs to force Innovation back, and Innovation's just kind of slowly leapfrogging forward one tank at a time with some bio as well. Innovation essentially wants Dark's army to be weakened up by tank shots as much as possible. So we see he's just leapfrogging one tank at a time, and he essentially kills Dark's 4th base, because Dark knows if he attacks into this, he's not going to take a very favorable engagement, and being only on 3 bases versus a 3-base Terran is not an advantageous situation for the Zerg player. Bio is a lot cheaper to remax out on than Roaches and Ravagers. Dark, knowing that his 4th base is about to go down over here, smartly takes this base to try to get a 4th base running, but Innovation had the 4 Marines over there. They were over there. Oh my gosh, that's very poorly worded. My bad. Those Marines that went over to clear out the 4th base location of Innovation went over here, and they were just kind of walking across the map. That's very good play by Innovation's part, and is able to cancel a hack tree almost immediately because of that. And now the engagement occurs. There's not really much that Dark can do. He's taking a decent engagement. Chitinous plating is not done yet. It just finishes, but by the time it finishes, all the Ultralisks are dead, and Innovation has a little flank on the way. I think that flank went around the rocks. Let me just double check that. Or no, okay, so he all armied, so that came from over here, and then it went this way, and then his army was going this way. So if he attack moved in this direction with his all army key, these units would automatically go in that direction. Okay. So yeah, just a very solid game by Innovation, slowly cutting out Dark's options one by one until his army is essentially surrounded and Dark is forced to take an engagement. He can give up his 4th base, but he cannot give up his 3rd base. And he just pretty much he's forced into a checkmate situation here. Very solid game by Innovation. Innovation still showing that he's a very strong Terran player, and he's able to, maybe he doesn't completely understand how to play the matchup yet, but he has very strong army movement fundamentals that allowed him to win the game, and being able to deny Dark the information of where Innovation's army is made his drops all that more effective. Good game.